Pedro, what a pleasure to see you in Beijing.
We're very happy to be here. It's a place I like to visit quite often, and it's always good to be back.
The uncertainties and unpredictabilities, given that backdrop, an investor like you, what does that mean?
In Europe, the situation is a little bit more difficult. Growth has been reduced in a number of sectors, and exactly this huge increase in spending in defense from European countries will have an impact in our economies. It will boost it. It will have a short-term boost from the spending that is going to start coming. This Germany going for €1 trillion of investment defense. All of these things are going to be radical changes, but we live in uncertain times and we have to be much more careful where we invest. And you start seeing that from the investors. You start seeing things that people were doing a few years ago that have disappeared. In VC, for example, you start seeing less and less, I would call it crazy investments, this idea of financing always companies that are always losing money just for the hope of growth. That is disappearing. We are coming to more reasonable terms, and that is not sometimes always bad. It's better to have soft landings than to have aggressive landings. But in the world of uncertainty we live today, I still think we could be much worse than we are.
Why is the Europeans still pondering now? Why don't they think now is the moment for them to come together with China? It just seems to be such an obvious choice.
Yes. They are. I mean, I would agree that good relations with China are important for Europe. I don't think we should be putting ourselves in a situation where we have to choose either from the United States or from China. Our transatlantic partnership is critical for our security. It's our vital interest. It has preserved peace in Europe. So that's an important element of Europe, geopolitical strain. And I really cherish our relation with the United States. But it should not influence our relation with China. Our relation with China has to be judged on the basis, on the merits of our interests and Chinese interests. And so we have to have our own China policy. The United States have theirs, we respect that, we have ours. First point. Second point, you don't have unanimity inside the European Union. You have countries which take a pretty negative stance towards China. It's very easy to identify which countries they are because they are the countries that China did not give a visa waiver to. So now the list is very clear and it's became very public. On the other hand, you have countries which have received a lot of Chinese investment. I come from a country which has received a lot of Chinese investment. Portugal is a very good example. When Portugal was bankrupt and in a very difficult situation, we did not sell our companies and many of our assets to Chinese companies out of the interest, political interest. We just said it will be a fair competition and whoever pays more will be accepted in the country. And China, at that moment, invested more in Portugal than the United States, than Germany, than other countries. And so our our utility company is the largest shareholder is Chinese. Our state-owned electrical grid is invested by state grid of China. And to be honest, it's a good case because when you look back, we don't really see political influence from China. We don't really see China meddling in internal affairs of Portugal. We share a history of 5 centuries together because of Macau. We have a very positive story after the return of Macau to China, contrary to others. I don't want to go into that file today. But so we've had that good relation with China. And I can say the Chinese investment in Portugal has been responsible, has been positive, and is positively perceived by the population. And so we are a good example where China can cooperate and Europeans can win with that cooperation. We would also like to see more European companies in China and more access for European companies in public tendering, in participation in projects here in China. There's a lot of opportunities here.
But you think about the green options
Yes.
transportation in the future could bring, and the goals the EU set for itself, agreed by all the European capitals. This collaboration, this marriage, quote unquote,
Yes.
between China and the European business is just so natural, isn't it?
You now have a concern that we need to be serious about the environment. We need to be serious about preserving the Earth, our shared planet, but we also have to reindustrialize Europe. Yes, we need to do it with solar energy. We need to do it with renewables. We need to do it in a different way. But the green emphasis, and this is important even for China, the green emphasis that was put in Europe 5, 10 years ago has radically changed. The political landscape in that sense has changed. Now the rule and the name of the game is reindustrialization. And China can be a part of it and should be a part of it.
So when we become economical and trade, how pragmatic we need to be, not being blindfolded by rhetorics or narratives?
I think the reindustrialization has to be done in a smart way. We need to invest in high-tech industries. We need to develop industries that are of great value added. We continue to be a very rich area in Europe. Europe is a market of 400 million consumers who have an average consumption power that is only comparable to the United States. China is still getting to those numbers. And so we have a very big interest in having a pragmatic solution with China on trade. There are imbalances. The surplus is very different, is very big for China, and so we need to balance that. But we can do it in an intelligent way, and I hope and I believe that the Chinese party would engage in that conversation with Europeans.
You are investing in 3 key areas: technology and also telecommunication as well as media. How would you be able to navigate this very complicated area? You are one always looking for the best,
for sure,
the most advanced. Tell me more about that.
So I have to say there continues to be a good opportunity in technology in Europe. There's a lot of new solutions being developed. You continue to see a market that's shifting from this tradition of VC, of endless investments and rounds and further rounds. Of course, the market has dried up a bit. We were lucky. One would say lucky, some would say that we did the right move. We did much more private equity investments into tech. And so we paid our companies go into profitability and cash flow positive very early in the game. We believe that it's not just enough about growth, it's also about profitability. And so, to be honest, on the tech side, the geopolitics have not affected us. On telco, that's not true, and on media, of course, it's a very, very different reality.
But Europe has been, generally speaking, talking about going to the top tier in terms of innovation.
To be honest, I would love to see opportunities to invest more in tech in China. And I think there, from the Chinese side, there should be a little bit more openness towards receiving other companies. I understand when China blocks certain solutions because it's being blocked in the US from other solutions. That's part of the game. In my preferred world, we should be in a situation where everyone could compete everywhere. WeChat should be expanding in Europe and in the US. WhatsApp should be expanding here. And unfortunately, you don't have European solutions at that level, but we need to put ourselves also up for the game. And so in a better world, we should all compete, and the best solutions and the players should be able to play the market. I'm absolutely against bans. I've had, and some of our competitors and famous other media people have said, we should ban TikTok in Europe. I don't think that banning the channel is the way to ban the voices. If we have a problem with the voices, we should not have a problem with the channel. This is a solution not to, if people are not happy, we cannot blame the communication way. We have to address the root causes of why the people are not happy.
Not to look for the scapegoat.
In my view, means that we trust very little in our democracy. It means it shows more how we are not confident that our democracy is working, and that's very, very problematic because we want to live in democracy. It's very problematic. It's more problematic for us than for whoever is trying to influence it. Our democracy, our system, the fact that people go into the booth and make their vote has to be a sacred moment in our lives. And if that is being disrupted by something so little as an app, we have a problem with our democracy, and then it's much more serious than the app itself.
Huawei has been, together with other Chinese operators, providing infrastructure for Europe because it's affordable, it's also advanced, and the cooperation has been there for a long time.
Yes.
But all of a sudden, as a result of geopolitics, things change overnight. Tell me more, Pedro, as an investor.
You take the case of Portugal. Portugal is
exceptional, isn't it, in a way?
Among
all the European.
Well, in a very radical way, probably. I'm not sure you are 100% aware. Portugal blocked Huawei 100% and Chinese companies 100% with a lot of pressure. One has to say there was a lot of pressure put into that, and Portugal made a very tough law. And so basically, Huawei, ZTE are absolutely banned from the Portuguese telecommunication space. We don't invest in telco in Portugal. You have other countries like Germany, who, if I had to comment on the law, was probably the soft model. Yes, they will ban one day, it's slow, no one really knows how the future is going to be. Deutsche Telekom put a lot of pressure into making sure this was as slow as possible. A few facts that are true. Huawei does have good technical solutions. Huawei has competitive prices. Chinese financial institutions put a lot of packages and supports that make it attractive. And so it's a very difficult decision from a company perspective to say we're giving that up for the alternative.
Huawei is a private company, by the way.
And Huawei is a private company. And if there are concerns, those concerns should be addressed. Of course, I do not want China, Russia,